Welcome, welcome everyone to the first episode of Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. I'm your studio host, Oren Stewart, joined by our founders, Dr. Miranda Kitterlin-Lynch and Mr. Leon Thomas. Stay tuned. You do not want to miss it.
Hey, ah, yeah, hey, ah.
Once again, welcome everyone. I'm your studio host, Oren Stewart, joined by Miranda and Leon, and our special guest, Mr. Brian Barker. Leon and the team, come on in.
Hey, Oren, thank you. Thank you for being our studio host. We appreciate it. Miranda, this is our first show. We're about to rock it. What do you think?
I am so excited, and I'm so excited to kick off our first show with such an amazing guest.
Yeah, Brian Barker is our first guest here on the first episode of Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. Brian, thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's an honor and a privilege to be with you, my colleague, Dr. Miranda Kitterlin-Lynch. Thank you for having me. And Leon, great to meet you. I've heard lots of great things. I know you and Miranda have been doing some work together. So I'm really thrilled to be with you all on your inaugural launch. This is exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Miranda, you've known Brian longer than I have because I just met him like 30 seconds ago. Why don't you go ahead and give him a formal introduction and talk some about how you guys work together, and then I'll chime in from time to time. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brian holds a really special role at the Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism at FIU. He is our first endowed professor of DE&I. He is also kind of spearheading the launch of our new DEI alliance, AHED. And Brian, do you want to fill in some more details on that? Because we just had a really, really exciting first meeting of our council.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Miranda, for that introduction. So yes, I mean, it's a prestigious honor. I mean, both my title as well as to, be the director and help launch AHED. So we are the first hospitality program with an endowed professorship of diversity, equity, inclusion here at FIU. And a lot of credit needs to be given to a lot of folks, but first and foremost, Dean Chang. He's been a thought leader in the space. And there are many other individuals who came together and suggested that there was a need to have diversity, equity, inclusion education as a part of a hospitality program. One of the benefactors, if you will, is Southern Glacier Wine and Spirits. That's the namesake for our institution. A few years ago, about 2 years ago, they did what was called an idea distillery. And one of the ideas that emanated from that process was the need to have diversity, equity, inclusion education at the Chaplin School. So I launched the inaugural course last year, and now we're in our second iteration of it. And now, as Miranda mentioned, just this past Friday, we concluded the first meeting for the AHED Council. And AHED is an acronym which stands for the Alliance for Hospitality and Equity Diversity. So this is a very important initiative that is being launched and anchored at FIU's Chaplin School of Hospitality, but it is a national initiative. And so we have some really phenomenal thought leaders from across the country, from many of the top senior hospitality organizations and associations, as well as academic institutions. So we brought and curated this very special list of talent together so that we could have multiple voices in a room and really approach a very big problem, which is the lack of diversity and equity and inclusion across the ecosystem of hospitality. So I'm really thrilled and honored to lead this charge.
Mhm. One of the things that I've seen when we talk about diversity across hospitality is it seems like that every hospitality brand or franchise company, Hilton, Choice, Marriott, and even the management companies, everyone was trying to kind of do their own thing. And it sounds like you're bringing everyone together to have a universal conversation. And it just seems like that's going to be the way to go, that you guys are are going to be doing something that's really going to help and provide opportunity. Was that part of it when you thought about bringing folks in, not only from your university but other areas?
Absolutely, Leon. And there are many initiatives that are out there, and I certainly want to recognize and give credit to all of them. Recently retired David Kong, from Best Western, has been a pioneer in this space as well, as he has launched what's called the DEI Advisors Initiative. And I've had the great privilege of being on a call with him a couple of times. Some of the members who are a part of the Advisors Initiative. As we all know, Howard University was the benefactor for the Arnie Sorensen gift that came from the Marriott Foundation, and we're thrilled to have the inaugural executive director Ashley Johnson serve on our council. So yes, we are aware that there are many initiatives that are out there. But what we hope is that we want to be a hub to house many of these initiatives, but also to really help these initiatives, seek optimization. Because there are so many great initiatives like NSMH, the National Society of Minorities in Hospitality. That organization has been around for many years, and we certainly want to engage with NSMH to create a stronger pipeline through NSMH. While of course we are not a part, formally a part of it. So, I've had, 20 plus years of engaging in DEI within the hospitality space. And I've had the great privilege of working very closely with many of these organizations. And so, yes, to answer your question, we gave a lot of thought and consideration into how we can collectively come together and really create something that's going to be meaningful, sustainable, but also, as I think what we're all interested in doing, something that's going to move the needle. And so we're really have almost like a laser focus on understanding some of the things that need to be done. That's going to really create change across the hospitality ecosystem.
Mhm.
Yeah, and can I just say, sitting in that room with the council members last Friday, it was just an incredible experience. We have some amazing people at the table, and I truly believe that everyone in that room, they don't just want to talk, they want to put things into action. So I have so much optimism about all the incredible things that I think we're going to be able to do.
Absolutely, Miranda. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It was really, just phenomenal, as you mentioned. Great synergies across the board from so many of us who were, in the room, and people just really ready to roll up their sleeves and really make, impact. I don't want to turn this into an AHED infomercial, but we have 5 strategic pillars, that we're really excited about. One, of course, is going to be our membership drive, as well as fundraising. I mean, I think we all recognize to create, change, there's going to be resources required. Another pillar is going to focus on recruitment. Um, you know, uh, College enrollments are certainly, we're seeing a progressive decline, and we're seeing a disproportionate decline of minority students in hospitality, which is why we have the AHLA Foundation on board and a member of our council, because we know that they are deeply committed to changing perspectives. But we, through AHED, we want to be the boots on the ground for their marketing initiative. Many hospitality programs are challenged in that their admissions and recruitment professionals many times know very little about hospitality. I mean, I think both of you as professionals and folks who have been, in this industry, you still will meet a person, and when asked about, what does hospitality mean, most people will just think, hotels and restaurants. But our industry is so much more broad and so much more complex, with so many, a labyrinth of opportunities. And so, we want to, one of our objectives and strategic pillars is to create our own recruitment team that will be a national team recruiting for all of our AHED University members. This will be someone very knowledgeable about our industry and who can help students make the best selection for the best school for their specific needs and desires. So, and then very briefly, we want to also focus on professional development. As I mentioned earlier, organizations like the DEI advisors, many hospitality professionals just need a good mentor. So we want to be able to leverage organizations like that, as well as organizations like CCAP. And many other organizations that exist that are doing the work. We want to assist our AHED scholars to get involved and get acclimated with the right organizations that will lead to their professional development. And then lastly, the two final pillars are partnership and belonging. And so there will be a lot of strategic partners that we will be announcing that we're really excited about. And then creating belonging. Belonging is really an outcome, in my opinion. A lot of organizations try to, talk about belonging and reach belonging, but belonging to me is a result of having equal proportions of diversity, equity, inclusion. So you can't skip over the equity piece and hope that people feel that they belong, because if they don't see themselves within the organization, if they don't feel valued within the organization, then they're certainly not going to feel that they belong. So we're really excited. It's been a long time coming, and we're really thrilled to finally launch this national initiative.
All right. So Brian, let's talk about this. Tell us, what was your background? What did you do before you came to FIU?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. So just moving chronologically backwards, immediately before coming to FIU, I was a full-time instructor at DePaul University. I taught there for
Now, was
about
that DePaul as in DEPAUL, or as in Illinois? Is that DePaul with a W as in Indiana? Where were you?
the former Chicago,
Okay, all right, good.
DePaul Blue Demons in Chicago, Illinois. Yes, there's quite a similarity between those two schools. So, or at least in terms of the pronunciation of them. So yes, DePaul University, private, Vincentian Catholic school is where I served for about 8 years. I also was the advisor, actually the inaugural advisor for that chapter. I helped launch the chapter of NSMH, again, National Society of Minorities in Hospitality, and did a few other things while I was there. Prior to that, I had a brief stint in a nonprofit. While I was at DePaul, I got my master's in multicultural organizational communication. And after completing my degree, I went to work for a small nonprofit in Evanston. But I argued that it was still hospitality. We provided clinical mental health services and housing for mentally ill adults. And to me, that really is the essence and the origin of hospitality, is really helping people who are most vulnerable, oftentimes when they're away from home. In that nonprofit, it just so happened these individuals did not have a home. So, and then prior to that, I worked in the lodging space, mostly with Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts. So out of college, I went to work directly for Four Seasons in Philadelphia as an operational manager, did all of the rooms division track. Eventually, I made my way to Four Seasons Miami, where I was front office manager, and helped lead that hotel to the attainment of its first 5 Diamond Award recognition. The front office is perhaps one of the largest sort of graded areas when it comes to 5 Diamond Award recognition. So that was truly one of the feathers in my professional cap of helping that hotel reach that status, because it had not done it in the 5 years that it existed prior. So that's a little bit about my background. I went to hospitality school at Bethune-Cookman, a historically Black college in Daytona Beach, Florida. I served 3 years on a national board with NSMH, 2 years as parliamentarian, and my final year was as the national vice chair. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about my journey in the industry.
Yeah, right on. Now, Miranda, I want to follow up just on one thing you said. Brian, you said Vincentian High School?
No, DePaul University is a Vincentian Catholic school.
Oh, okay. Now I got you.
A
Okay.
denomination of Catholicism is Vincentian. So after
Vincentian.
spending 8 years there, I learned a little bit about Vincentian values and culture, which is deeply connected to hospitality in terms of, treating other people the way that you want to be, treated. I mean, those values really do translate well into the hospitality industry.
hmm hmm Got it. Got it. All right. So I'm gonna ask some kind of non-hospitality related questions, and then I'll toss it to Miranda for some other questions. So Brian,
This is where I'm going to fail.
do you have a athletic allegiance like a favorite team?
You know, I love all sports. The US Open is happening now. I'm a huge tennis fan.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say I have one particular allegiance. In terms of playing, I played and enjoyed playing tennis the most.
Uh-huh.
Historically, growing up, watching football was always, where I found pleasure. But I
Okay.
love all sports, and so yes. And I'm from Chicago. I am from Chicago.
Uh-huh.
There's a small affinity to Chicago teams,
Okay.
but in my adult world, I've realized that it's all a business, and so now I just, I enjoy sports of any,
Right.
you know, of any team. I less
Okay.
allegiance to my hometown and
Mm-hmm.
more just I root
All
for
right.
certain players.
Okay.
Sorry to be so
Yeah.
lame in that response.
Right. It's not lame. It's just that I think you're remembering that this is an episode that will be on the internet forever, and if you ever decide to run for political office, we can always pull it. And so this way, you're protecting yourself. You're making it. You're being all cool. I just have one more, and then Miranda, I'll let you go. What's your favorite food, Brian?
Man, that is a really great question. I'm just gonna say, you know what? I'm a Midwest young person. I still consider myself a young person, so I'm gonna go with a nice steak and baked potato.
Right on.
You can't go wrong with that. I mean, that's always going to be a great option, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Medium. So for anybody wondering, I'm gonna
Okay.
take it medium, right? Because
Medium.
I know if it's well done, then you get buried for that. Um, so
Yes.
so so medium is my sweet spot.
Right on. Yep. Miranda.
I noticed that about you when we had dinner Thursday night because I too like a medium steak. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm in a safe space. I'm not going to be shamed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know you get judged for ordering a well done steak, which when I was a kid, you didn't want you didn't want pink steak, but as I've progressed in my palate has refined a bit, I've come around to understanding that medium is where you get the most flavor. So
Yes,
yes.
agreed. So let me ask you, in your industry experience, I know that you mentioned the value of mentorship, and I'm a huge proponent of mentorship, coaching, advocacy, etc. Do you feel that you received that in your industry journey?
Industry journey. Yeah, there are a few. There are a few mentors. So, I hate to be partial, working at FIU, but this is actually one of the attributes that I hope that we can create inside of AHED. At HBCUs, many students really do latch on to their favorite professor and oftentimes for a lifetime. I would hope that non-HBCU, universities, students have that same experience. But I was able to latch on to, Dr. Ernest Boger. He's an icon in the industry, and I'm always been able to call him up. Once I got to Four Seasons, I did find another mentor, gentleman. He's still with the company, Tony Rodriguez. He's like a regional director of sales and marketing. He was always a friend and an ally, and so somebody I could call up when I needed advice, particularly during critical times in my career. So that's critical. I mean, it's not just that they're going to be a mentor, but that they can also sponsor you and be an ally for you when you're not in the room. And then, of course, in academia, mentorship is important as well. And I'm very thrilled to actually be on this Zoom now with one of my mentors. So Dr. Kitterlin has been a great resource helping me navigate, FIU. I think we're like the fifth largest, institution in the country. So it is a big place, and there are many, places to navigate around the institution. So mentorship is vital to any person's career, not just in the DEI space, but regardless of where you are.
Mhm. It's
Agreed.
interesting you would say that Dr. Kitterlin-Lynch is your mentor. You're not the first person that I've heard say that. And so when I hear her, Miranda, when I hear you say you're very much into mentorship And then I hear so many people saying that you do it. You are walking the talk. And we're talking about mentors. I'd like to give a shout out to two of mine, Dr. Dave Sanoka, a professor of sport management at Robert Morris University. He was one of my mentors, and Brian, you used the term latch onto. I've latched onto him, and it's been a long, 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 long time since he was one of my teachers, one of my professors, but we're still connected and talk about once a week now. And the other one in the business was Mark Zelaznik. He works for Vista Host Hotel Management. He's the vice president of revenue management for them. And so those two were my mentors. And when you talk about the importance of having it at work and in academia, yeah, it's a very important thing to have. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, yeah, very very critical piece to have. Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely would not be where I am in life or career anywhere without my mentor, Dr. Jerome Agrusa over in Hawaii. And if you are listening to this and you do not have a mentor, find one. Somebody wants to help you. Email me. I will help you. If you are listening to this and you do not have one or more mentees, look out there for the people that want help. I promise you, there are some amazing connections that could be made.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to piggyback on that point, so in the DEI course that I teach at FIU, we really do sort of take a survey approach to diversity, equity, inclusion, and cover a number of different topics. And so I try to also bring in, some great industry professionals, who can complement some of those topics. And part of the learning requirement and objective for the students is that they're required to engage with those professionals on LinkedIn, and then to choose one of those professionals to have a one-on-one conversation with, because you never know where those conversations can go. And my goal, my objective, I didn't make it an objective for the course, but my goal is that through some of these one-on-one conversations, that there will be some mentor-mentee type of relationships that get created, because it's as professionals, we always aspire to have a student reach out to us and let us know, that they admire our journey. And when professionals are told that, they naturally take a liking to that young person and then want to see the best for that young person. So I really do try to build it into my pedagogy to foster and facilitate, these mentor-mentee type of relationships through learning.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I love that. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool, right, Leon?
Yes, it is. Brian, I don't know if you're aware of the full story, but that's one of the ways that Miranda and I met. There was a post on LinkedIn about a DEI conversation that she was hosting back in
2020, I think.
2020, right? And I attended the event, and she and I connected on LinkedIn, and that's what kind of brought us together. So when you say LinkedIn, we kind of both were, I mean, I know we're supposed to look at the camera. We were kind of both looking at each other going, yeah, 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 this stuff really, really works. Yeah. And you mentioned that you're advising students to make connections. You never know what's going to happen. You never know how the relationship's going to grow, how that professional is looking for someone like you. But as you both have said, professionals want to help
Absolutely.
students. They want to help. And when they get that contact that says, hey, will you help me? Or can you help me with this? Can you look at my resume or whatever? I know when I get those inquiries, I love it. I love it. So yeah, thank you for doing that and encouraging folks to do so. I just have one more thing. Brian, in our industry, there's been so much talk the last 2 years about we need to do this, we need to do that, things need to change, right? You're familiar with all those conversations. And I'm so thrilled to hear that FIU is doing something and is bringing people together to make things happen, to make change, to get people on the same page and how to do it. When you look at your long-term goals, what key measurement factors will you use to determine if what you're doing is working?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. KPIs. That's something that we talk through quite frequently. So, As I mentioned, we have 5 pillars, and so for each of those pillars, there are KPIs, right? So fundraising, right? I mean, one of our first initiatives out of the gate, we're going to look at is how can we fund recruitment. And so there is a 5M price tag that's associated with sort of the full sort of kit and caboodle, right? In terms of, if we want 4 regional recruiters, and we've done some numbers, crunched the numbers in terms of how many students could those recruiters recruit. So we have KPs around that. And then in terms of professional development, there's a couple of different programs that I've kind of created. One is the one through my DEI course. We hope that as we recruit members, so other academic partners, we will be able to share curriculum. So we have some KPIs around how many schools and university partners that we want to have. And we're not like out trying to recruit right now, because we really want to make sure that our house is in order first. So before other academic schools can join AHED, we are going to be very intentional and methodical about what are the requirements to join AHED, because we don't want this to just be another run-of-the-mill, alliance or association. We need university partners to be committed. So by the end of 2023, we hope to have 20 members fully onboarded. And with that, some of the core requirements is that there will be committed to sharing curriculum around diversity, equity, inclusion. They will be committed to allowing faculty members to provide guest lectures at other institutions. So there are a number of KPIs for each of our strategic pillars that we will look at to be able to measure our success. One other of the professional development pieces, I've designed a piece about the lack of diverse, both Hispanic and Black general managers. Particularly right now, it's a challenge in South Florida for full service hotels. So I've designed a 6-week program which really focuses on that connection between senior level operational managers and asset managers and hotel owners. There is that orientation piece that we think is missing. So we have some KPIs around each of our respective programs that will let us know how successful we are in each of our 5 pillars. So we're really thrilled to do the work, and I have to tell you, both Leon and Miranda, that as I consider weighing the option of taking this position, it was that in mind that I had in mind, that I didn't want to just be a part of another DEI initiative, because quite frankly, in the academia space, and I know that times are changing, but historically, it's almost been sort of a burden in your career as an academic, because what it suggests is that your work, your research, your scholarship is only applied to a very small population. And a lot of scholars have suggested that it then makes your work not generalizable to the masses. And I think we know that we're in a different space now, but whether it be the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, there's also some research that I often point to out of the Federal Reserve out of San Francisco, that lack of diversity, equity, inclusion now, it's a cost, it's a liability. If you're not doing it well, it hinders GDP. And I'd love to, submit a reference, for your viewers. But the Federal Reserve out of San Francisco suggests that it has cost the U.S. economy from 1990 until today $70 trillion, the lack of diversity, equity, inclusion around ethnic and gender diversity. And so I really want to, put forward that, this movement is sustainable and it's viable, but it's also no longer just about corporate social responsibility, but we're now moving into a place of fiscal responsibility. So that's a long way to answer your very poignant question.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because for many decision makers, their decision is going to revolve around the dollar sign, right?
Absolutely.
If we can people exactly what you said, it's not just about doing the right thing. It's going to make you money.
Absolutely, and that's critical. My motto as I take on this work, I'm not trying to change people's hearts and minds, right? but it's about the pocketbook, right? Understand, how can you be a better leader? How can you be a better manager to your stakeholders? And now the business case is clear. You have to be more diverse. You have to be more equitable if you truly want to lead in your respective field. So thank you for that emphasis, Miranda.
Mhm. Brian, thank you so much for joining me and Miranda for the first episode of Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. Now, Brian, if folks want to get more information or to contact you, how do they do that? What's the
Abs-
contact?
Absolutely great. Thank you for that. So yes, email is a great way. My first name is Brian, last name Barker. So B and then Barker at FIU.edu. And then AHED does have a landing page. It's housed in FIU's website. So what I encourage people to do, and as of now, it still is the first to populate, is to just do a quick search on AHED, AHED, and FIU, and the website will populate. But the actual website is listed there. It can be found through going to FIU's Chaplain School of Hospitality and then filtering through about, and then you'll find a link for AHED. So those are two great ways to reach out to me, as well as to engage with AHED. We're really thrilled. Our council is we have a phenomenal council, of which Miranda is the inaugural Blooming Brands DEI fellow, as Blooming Brands is one of our partners. So we're really thrilled to be in this space, and thank you for providing this platform for us to talk a little bit more about AHED. And I wish you all great success. I mean, we need this sort of very consistent platform that's going to focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, because so many people still think that this is just going to be a fad. But organizations who are truly committed and understanding the revenue potential, they're going to constantly find ways to engage and to make their organizations much more diverse and robust in the DEI space. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. This has been great.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Let's go to our studio host, Oren, and
I want to thank you all for joining us for our first episode of Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. I'm your studio host, Oren Stewart, joined by our founders, Dr. Miranda Kitterlin-Lynch, Mr. Leon Thomas, and our special guest today, Mr. Barker. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed. See you next week.